Okay, imagine eating the exact same meal every single day for almost 2 decades. Seriously, picture it. On the surface, the story of 20-year-old Austin might just seem like, an extreme case of picky eating. But as we dive into this explainer and peel back the layers, we're actually going to uncover a really profound story about trauma, survival, and the absolutely incredible ways our brains wire themselves to protect us. 17 years. For the past 17 years of his life, Austin Davis has eaten almost nothing but macaroni and cheese. I mean, really think about that for a second. No fresh fruit, no crisp vegetables, zero diverse proteins. Just mac and cheese day in and day out for nearly 2 decades. When he walks into a grocery store, he literally bypasses the produce and the meat aisles completely and just makes a beeline straight for the boxed meals.
Now, you might be wondering, why doesn't he just try something else? Well, this isn't just some quirky preference or stubbornness. It's an invisible barrier controlling his body. Austin himself makes it super clear. He didn't choose this life. To him, the idea of eating a piece of celery or a cut of meat isn't just unappealing. It triggers this immediate, totally involuntary physical rejection.
So let's look at Section 1. The 17-year macaroni diet, rigid rules and Velveeta shells.
Austin tightly controls his environment, keeping everything incredibly specific, literally down to the brand and the exact metal pan he uses. He primarily eats Velveeta shells, like 9 times out of 10 actually. And why? Because it's the most consistent. The texture never ever changes. He flat out refuses to use a wooden spoon, he insists on specific silverware, and get this, he can even tell if a different pan was used to cook his meal. Any deviation, even a flavored mac and cheese like a white bean or one with bacon, is considered an absolute abomination to his routine.
Moving right along to Section 2, Anatomy of a Food Fear, the sensory overload.
Here's where it gets really intense. His body genuinely treats a piece of broccoli or meat as a literal threat, causing massive sensory overload and involuntary gagging. When Austin even attempts to try something new, he describes putting blinders on. The second the food enters his mouth, his brain is just hijacked by the texture, the consistency, and those unfamiliar flavors. Raw meat looks like gore to him. The mere thought of blood and muscle fiber makes his yellow-tinted comfort zone feel like a safe haven in an absolute hellscape. And the crazy thing is, even if he theoretically likes the taste of a new food, his body will involuntarily gag or instantly throw it up.
For the longest time, Austin believed he was just weird, right? Until he randomly discovered selective eating disorder while watching a Good Mythical Morning YouTube video, which finally gave a name to his struggle. Imagine the massive weight lifting off his shoulders, finally realizing, hey, I'm not broken. I actually have a specific, treatable condition. Hearing that this was an actual diagnosable disorder was a huge turning point for him. It lifted this dark shadow that had been hanging over him his entire life. It meant he finally had an angle to attack it from.
It's absolutely fascinating to contrast his physical bravery at Ground Zero boxing, where he takes actual hits in the ring, with his complete psychological paralysis when facing a vegetable. Seriously, Austin works out heavily 4 times a week. He literally steps into a boxing ring to fight and prove his physical worth, yet he genuinely asks the question, do you just eat an eggplant? Like just take a bite out of it? The juxtaposition here is just incredible. He is completely fearless in a fistfight, but utterly defeated by the color of unfamiliar produce.
This brings us to Section 3, the hidden psychological trauma, the reveal behind the mac and cheese.
To truly understand this diet, we have to look back at the chaotic and abusive household Austin grew up in. One specific, defining memory really stands out. Austin was asked to take out the trash, which just happened to be next to some of his father's important payroll papers. Well, his father became enraged, took a skateboard Austin had bought with his own money, and snapped it over his knee. When Austin reacted by kicking a wall, his father charged him, pummeled him on the ground, and slammed his head into a coffee table. Austin blacked out, bleeding, which ultimately led to a DCF investigation, his removal from the home, and an official diagnosis of PTSD.
So as you can see, macaroni and cheese wasn't just a meal. It was the only safe, controllable element in a terrifying, completely unpredictable childhood environment. In a home filled with physical conflict and deep sadness, dinner was never, a calm family gathering at a table. But Austin learned that if he asked for mac and cheese, it wouldn't spark a fight. He learned how to make it himself. It literally became his anchor of safety. When meeting his new therapist, Ashley, she perfectly connected his history of physical abuse to a freeze trauma response that now gets activated just by looking at unfamiliar foods. Usually when we talk about trauma, we talk about fight, flight, or freeze, right? Well, Austin was a freezer. Now, as an adult,
Just sitting in a room with the intention of trying a new food mimics that exact same traumatic danger signal in his brain. His body literally paralyzes its digestive system to protect him from what his brain perceives as mortal danger.
Which leads us to Section 4, fighting for a change, rewiring the brain.
When Austin anticipates a new food, his stress shoots straight up, and his brain essentially tricks him into thinking that the panic will just keep rising forever. But his therapist taught him to visualize his invisible anxiety as a wave. The therapy focuses on proving that the perceived threat is so much worse than reality. Anxiety is actually a curve, you see. It comes up, it peaks, and it will eventually, inevitably, go down.
To cure this, Austin and his therapist use a really structured clinical approach. It starts with establishing a hierarchy of foods to try, gradually exposing him to them while keeping him grounded in his body. The goal isn't just to force him to eat vegetables, it's to actually build a brand new neural pathway in his brain that says, hey, I can feel this uncomfortable feeling, survive it, and move forward.
Austin's immense self-awareness allows him to view this eating disorder not as some personal failure, but as an outdated survival mechanism that he is now brave enough to leave behind. He completely recognizes that this diet literally saved him emotionally when he was a vulnerable kid. But today, it's just a relic. It might have its hooks in him, holding him back, but he knows it does not define his identity.
Think about that simple, universal desire we all have to just go out to eat with friends without feeling a sense of overwhelming panic. Right now, Austin avoids eating out because, well, sitting with a plate of Velveeta while everyone else has a full, normal meal makes him feel totally excluded. He wants variety. He wants to sit at a restaurant without blinding anxiety, and most importantly, he refuses to let his future children see him bound by these exact same limitations.
So I leave you with this final thought. What other quirks in our daily routines are actually just outdated survival mechanisms waiting to be rewired? It's pretty amazing to consider how brilliantly the mind protects us during trauma and how we can find the courage to rewire those pathways when we are finally safe. Austin's journey with selective eating disorder isn't just about macaroni and cheese, guys. It is a profound testament to human resilience. It challenges all of us to look at the invisible barriers we've built in our own lives and ask ourselves if it's finally time to break them down.